What do you make of this October surprise? Is there more to come, or is this all they have?
Well, given where we are in early voting, if there was a real October surprise, it would have dropped already. So I think they're just throwing anything they possibly can at a wall. You saw, obviously, the Atlantic article. Then you have this stuff coming from the former White House chief of staff. These things are all so serious. They knew about them 5 years ago, but they didn't bother to bring it up until about 13 days before an election. I don't think anyone believes it anymore. All of these things end up being hoaxes, but it's all the Democrats have. They can't run on policy. They can't run on the economy. They can't run on peace throughout the world because we don't have any of those things. We went from a time of prosperity under Trump to a time of poverty caused by Kamala Harris and Joe Biden and the cost of living crisis because of bad Democrat policy type decisions. We went from a time of peace to a time of war. So they understand it. They see the numbers. They see the early voting. They see all the demographic shifts because they refuse to actually cater to Americans. They just figured we'll just bring in 20 million illegals and try to get them to vote. It's not working anymore. The hoaxes aren't working. Again, if they had a real October surprise, it would have dropped by now, but that's not going to stop them from lying, from pushing. You saw what they said the other day in the Atlantic about, the veteran's sister, the lawyer, everyone in the room refutes it. But it doesn't stop Goldberg from the Atlantic from writing it anyway. And it certainly doesn't stop everyone from leftist Twitter 24 hours after it's been totally debunked by everyone in the room, where the sister of the actual victim is saying, stop trying to exploit this politically. I'm actually voting for Donald Trump. They're still running with it as though it's the gospel. This is what we're going to see for the next 2 weeks. They're going to come up with anything and everything. They won't look into the stuff about Kamala Harris. They certainly won't look into the stuff about her husband. They won't look into anything about Tim Walz. They're going to look into anything from 50 years ago about Donald Trump because it's all they have left.
I also, and I know I made the point in my monologue, but this is 2020, so it's the end of Trump's first term. If he was going to do all that Hitler-y stuff, he would have done it. To me, this is just it's locker room talk all over again.
The primary. If that was real, that's when you could really stop them. But to bring it up 13 days before an election, give me a break. Is anyone buying this stuff anymore? I mean, I read it. I see, my friends that are political, we're on text threads together. They're literally laughing about it. It just shows the level of desperation of the Democrats and their lackeys in the mainstream media.
Yeah.
So whatever disdain you have for our mainstream media, it's not enough. Because you see exactly what they are. They're nothing more than regime propagandists at this point. They will do anything to have their chosen candidate, Kamala Harris, be the president. We don't know why. It's not like she's done anything good. No one seems to be able to list any positive, any good policy, any good decisions. She's not going to do anything differently than Joe Biden. What is it? 79% of the country thinks we're in a disastrous path economically, and yet they're not going to change anything. This is all they have. It's actually pathetic. But the fact that it can still happen in America in 2024 is also pathetic, but it's not going to stop them. So don't believe the plethora of hoaxes that are magically going to drop in the next 2 weeks, because I'm sure it'll be a lot. But if there was a real one, I can assure you they would have already done it.
Yeah, that is such a good point. The Access Hollywood tape and even the Hunter Biden laptop, that was first half of October, not second half. So traditionally, to your point, it happens earlier in the month. Mark Halperin is having a moment right now. He's been right with a lot of his predictions. And this morning, he basically said that because John Kelly was a retired general, that he wouldn't be someone that would lie. Take a listen.
I know that there are people listening to this who say Trump is a pig and he loves Hitler. And how could anybody vote for Trump? And how could Mark Halperin say he doesn't believe Trump said it? I know there are people like that. And I know there are people who are saying Kelly's lying. He's in a collusion with the New York Times and Jeffrey Goldberg. This is all just made up as a last desperate attempt to stop Trump.
So Halperin's going to be on with me in a little bit. But Don, you knew John Kelly. And to me, he just sounds like kind of a rotten guy. Just based on this alone.
He's a bad guy, and he understands that if you do this now and you help out the swamp, if you help out the machine, there's a job for you somewhere. I mean, Mark Esper over at DOD, Department of Defense, wasn't exactly a Trump fan, but he certainly spent a lot of time with my father, and he said, you know what, I was there for a while, never heard any of these things. This is a Trump hater that is admitting this. So John Kelly knows if he says this, there's going to be a reward from the swamp. The swamp is going to take care of its own. If you help take out something that is a threat to their power, that is a threat to the hegemony that they have in Washington, D.C., that has failed so many Americans for so long, there's going to be a little reward for you. John Kelly knows that, and he's milking it. If these things were real, if they were serious, if it happened, he would have written about it 5 years ago. He would have written a book about it, and the media would have made him a hero, and they would have used it in 2020 to try to put sort of the proverbial final nail in my father's political coffin. They would have done that. That you sit on it for 5 years and you drop it magically 13 days before an election. Like, give me a break. You know, it's not like this is the first one that's happened. This is hoax like 4,376.
Right.
They've all been debunked. They've all been proven to be lies. Everyone's been discredited. This one's going to be no different, but they're hoping to milk it for whatever they can before an election. And I just don't think the American public believes it anymore. It'd be one thing if they had anything to stand on, any of the cases, any of the lawfare, any of the accusations. Now, remember, they won't look into the accusations of Biden. They won't look into the accusations of Hunter Biden. They covered all of those things up. They won't look into the accusations about Kamala Harris or certainly her husband, you know, all of which happened very recently. Certainly not like the stuff that they drag up from 45 years ago where there's no way to possibly refute it. It's all one big hoax, but they're going to keep running with it because it's all they have left. They have nothing else to run on. Kamala's been a disaster. They realized it wasn't working, so they had to pull her out from the basement. Then they put her on TV and they realized that's actually worse. So they're trying to put her back in the basement. The American public isn't getting it. They realized that they were much better off under Donald Trump across the board. Economically, geopolitically, wars, it's a no-brainer. When were you better off, today or 4 years ago? And there's not a person in America that can credibly say they're better off today, unless maybe they won the lottery or something like that.